Wild Turkey 8-Year 101. This has finally hit Washington, and I know a bunch of you are probably like, we've had this for years at this point practically, Bentley. What took you so long in Washington? However, as the bourbon crash has occurred, so stupid. Anyway, we're starting to see better age statements. And Bruce Russell, as he's been taking over at Wild Turkey, higher age statements has been part of his personal mission. But the real question is this worth the cost difference compared to regular Turkey 101? And maybe more importantly, how does it stand up to the Jimmy Russell 70th anniversary? Well, let's compare these two in 2-Minute Tuesday. Now, Wild Turkey 8-Year is planned to be a more shelf-available product, according to Bruce Russell. We'll see how accurate that becomes, or for how long that lasts, but for now, we're getting to enjoy something that previously was really only an export, as these were available in some of the Asian markets. Japan especially, you could get 8-Year Wild Turkey, you could get 12-Year Wild Turkey, but you haven't been able to get it in the US for quite some time. I've heard you could get some of it occasionally at the distillery, but now it's shelf available and it's distributed nationwide, and we'll probably get some wider distribution internationally as well. Let's see how it compares to basic Wild Turkey. I feel like at this point, everybody's pretty familiar with regular Wild Turkey 101. It's long been considered one of the best bang for your buck whiskeys out there, but the question is, if you're going up to, say, about $50 a bottle or so, which is what this costs before taxes here in Washington State, it's a nice cork bottle. Is it worth that difference compared to the typically $20-ish Wild Turkey 101? So basically double, but age stated. And then for those who got lucky and picked up some of the 70th anniversary Jimmy Russell versions of Wild Turkey, which it has been stated was aged in different warehouses and intentionally has a slightly different profile. But for those that were lucky to get this, is the regular 8-Year coming close enough to kind of scratch that itch now that this was a one-time release and not necessarily available anymore? Both turkeys have nice cork pops. Isn't that nice? Let's get down to whether or not the new 8-Year Wild Turkey 101 is a shelf hero or a shelf zero in this 2-Minute Tuesday. Start with color. Yeah, pretty typical bourbon color. Not anything crazy dark or crazy light. Hopefully you can see that, but you've got a couple of good little lakes here considering it's only 101 proof, so we've got some reasonable oiliness. Let's get in the nose. We're going to notice one thing with this being 101 proof. It's not going to have huge punchy notes, but we do have some really signature turkey things going on the nose here. There's that kind of turkey spice, that little touch of a nutty note, and a little hint of the kind of signature cherries that tend to come out of a lot of Wild Turkey products. But really, this is more of that turkey spice forward, which is very fitting with the Wild Turkey 101 kind of profile, and in theory what you're going to expect out of this Wild Turkey 8-Year. There's a little bit of some brown sugar sweetness, but it's not hugely present there. It's really mostly that spice note that's coming forward. There's also just a little hint of kind of the oak influence, but I'm expecting that to show up more on the palate than I am here in the nose. So with that being said, let's get to the palate. Right away on the palate, the first thing that I get compared to normal Wild Turkey 101, it's not as harsh. That 8-Year mellows down a little bit the harshness that comes with Wild Turkey 101 and that youth. To me, that is absolutely worth it. Because some of the younger whiskey harshness that tends to come out can be a little off-putting for my palate and a lot of other people. This is way more relaxed. You've got that great kind of spiciness that comes out of Wild Turkey, especially in the mid to finish portions of the palate. You've got just a touch of cherry, but the oak influence and that kind of brown sugary sweetness that comes from wood influence is really, really present from the very start all the way to the finish. This is just an elevated Wild Turkey 101, plain and simple, and that's what we should expect. So let's give an overall score to the new Wild Turkey 101 8-Year. I think I have to account for price here. I really have to account for price because it is so cheap compared to some of the big boy LEs that get put out by Turkey. And in that regard, I'm going to give this a 72. I actually think this is a really, really good Wild Turkey base. And if this is as shelf stable and available as Bruce Russell has said it is expected to be, this starts competing with things like your Old Forester 1910 or 1920 as far as a higher quality but easily available port. Is this going to crush like Wild Turkey Rare Breed? If you're a proof hound, no. But on pure flavor, you might prefer how mellow and relaxed this is in comparison to the higher proof that you're going to get out of Rare Breed. So it's going to depend on the kind of drinker you are. We're not going to get something mind-blowing or world-crushing here. It's 101 proof 8-Year Wild Turkey. If you like Wild Turkey and you want a more elevated blended version of it, you want something that's a bit more of the Friday night pour if Wild Turkey 101 is your daily sipper, there it is for $50 a bottle. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Now, is this giving us like this huge roller coaster of a ride, like some of the other like Wild Turkey products, think like Russell's 13 or, some of the Master's Keeps? No, come on, we're not going to expect that out of a $50 bottle. That's what gets saved for the LEs, and especially because it's not barrel proof. But are you getting something more than regular Wild Turkey? Yes. That wood influence, that little bit of sweetness from the oak really comes through, brings down any of the harshness. This is just a relaxed, good pour of Wild Turkey. I would akin to this to a lot of like the really good Kentucky Spirit single barrels, where it's smoothed out a little bit. It's still Wild Turkey 101, but you've got some really good flavors. And if you get a really good one, like a Camp Nelson something or other, this is what I would expect the flavor profile to be more like. But this is cheaper than Kentucky Spirit. So in that regard, it's a great deal. What about the Jimmy Russell 70th anniversary version, which is aged in different rick houses and is expected to have a different profile? Well, let's do a quick nosing and a quick taste and see how that compares. Color-wise, very simple, very simple. Baker Drinks Glen. What's up, good friends, the bakers? But let's get in the nose. This is significantly different on the nose. There's much less spice present in this on the nose. The spice was the predominant note in the Wild Turkey 8-year standard. There's more of the oak influence and brown sugar forward. There's still spice, it's underneath that, but it's a little more sweet forward, which is kind of surprising because Jimmy Russell's profile was supposedly more spice forward. Let's see how that changes on the palate though. There's that spice. What I will note, and the immediate comparison I have between the two, this is sweeter. There's more of that oak sweetness and brown sugar, less of the cherry. The cherry is pretty faint in the 8-year, but it's almost non-existent here. This is a lot of like brown sugar, wood influence, and a little turkey spice. But are they so significantly different that you would want to go start, say, chasing these bad boys on secondary as opposed to just picking up the 8-year off the shelf? No. Not at all. I think these are close enough. There's some small differences, and you can tell that's just a matter of the aging in the warehouses that were chosen for this blend, batch, whatever you want to call it, right? This is very good. And I would only put it slightly above because I like how the sweetness comes forward a little bit better so that you get both sweet and spice as opposed to mostly spice with a little bit of sweet. You get kind of this nice balanced blend as opposed to like big spice, little sweet notes underneath it. This is very much more spice and sweet at the same time. And I think that's a more complex and interesting pour if I was going to have this more regularly. Granted, we can't really find these anymore, so what do you do, right? What would I rate this number-wise? If regular 8-year is a 72, Jimmy Russell 70th is a 73. It's literally that difference. And if you prefer the bigger spice note, then you would flip it. This would be a 72, and this would be like a 71. I think they're just that close. It's just a matter of whether you want the extra oomph in the sweetness or whether you want that big spicy note forward, which is a little more closely aligned to the base Wild Turkey 101 profile. Would I hunt this? No, because it's supposed to be shelf available. But if you like Wild Turkey and you don't have one yet, if you see one on the shelf and it's at MSRP, do not overpay for this at all. At all. I mean, maybe if you found one of these for like $10 more than the SRP was supposed to be, I think these were like $70, where these are $50, maybe you buy this just to have one, right? If you don't have one. But if it's paying like full secondary to get a Jimmy Russell 70th versus finding the 8-year on the shelf, go buy the 8-year. Just buy the 8-year. They're so similar that the differences are too minute to really matter, and they don't justify paying that extra amount unless you just want to have one of these hanging around because it is a one-of-a-kind thing, and maybe you're a big Jimmy Russell fan. Then okay, I get it. So that's it. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this review on 2 Minute Tuesday of the Wild Turkey 8-year. Ooh. I actually really do like this. I think it's really solid, especially at its price point, and I hope that it stays that price point and Campari doesn't do any nonsense by jacking the price up like they've done on basically every LE from Turkey. If you've enjoyed this, leave a comment down below. Have you had the Turkey 8? Have you compared it to the Jimmy Russell? Maybe you've had some of the export versions in the past. What are your thoughts on those? I want to hear them in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. At 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away a bottle of E.H. Taylor Single Barrel and a few other things. Those 3 things, like, comment, subscribe, they're the free and easy way to help all of us small YouTubers keep doing what we're doing and not have to shove stupid sponsorships down your throat like weird protein cereals or a mattress or something else that has nothing to do with whiskey. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.